She said love is sacrifice. But you learned the truth in her mouth. Her kiss tasted like iron, and the apology came after the blade slid in. Now, you don't dream. You spiral. Welcome to revenge in reverse, where bedtime stories bleed softly and secrets breathe in the dark. If you're still awake, ask yourself, what part of you wanted the wound? You still taste her when it rains, not the sweetness of her breath or the warmth behind her teeth. No, you taste rust. You taste blood. You taste the promise that spoiled mid-sentence. She kissed you like a priest giving last rites. Gentle, certain, already mourning you, and you let her, not because you didn't know, but because, somewhere, quietly you did. There's a corner of your mind that always knew the blade was coming, a soft part of your rib cage that leaned forward anyway, a part of you that thought, maybe if I love hard enough, it won't hurt when she breaks me open. You were wrong, but the wrongness was beautiful. The spiral began slow, like stepping into water you thought was shallow. But the ground was gone, and your name didn't echo back when you called it. Now, you drift in silence too loud to escape. You count your breaths, not to live, but to remember you're still here, still haunted, still hollowed. Some nights you wake and think she's beside you. You feel her weight in the mattress. You smell the static in her hair, the unspoken guilt tucked into the crook of her neck. But when you turn, there's only absence, the kind that doesn't leave, the kind that waits, patient, the way you used to be. Because revenge, when it's real, doesn't scream. It whispers. It waits in the spine, in the tongue, in the twitching hands of the clock before midnight. She told you love meant breaking open, offering yourself with no armor. But she never said she'd carry the pieces. She left you scattered, and worse, she did it smiling. You remember that smile, half forgiveness, half goodbye, a curve of the mouth that said, you knew what this was. And maybe you did. That's what eats at you in the quiet hours. Not the betrayal, not the pain, but the fact that some part of you let it happen, welcomed it. You wore her red flags like ribbons, hung her lies like fairy lights around your spine. You told yourself her rage was poetry, her silence was strength. You mistook the storm in her for passion, the cold for mystery. You made her cruelty sacred. Now your thoughts are museums. Every memory, framed and polished. You revisit them like a pilgrim, not to understand, but to feel again, to suffer by choice, to rot with agency. Because there's a strange kind of power in hurting where she touched you. You don't chase peace anymore. You chase the ghost of impact. And isn't that what obsession is? A ritual of remembering, a worship of wounds, a need so sharp it replaces the very air. She left fingerprints on your bones, not your skin, not your soul. Bone, no one saw it, no one sees it still. They call it heartbreak, you call it becoming. Becoming the echo of her footsteps, the shape she carved, the ruin that breathes. Sometimes, when the night is loud enough, you almost hear her whisper, not with her lips, but with your own voice folding inward. You mimic her tone. You remember the pitch when she said, "It's not you." You mouth it back into the dark, like a prayer. You never needed closure. You needed witness. And now you carry that burden like a lover, intimate, tender, sharp. You cradle the ache here like a child born from your own undoing. This is the part they skip, the part where the victim smiles, where the wound becomes a mouth, and the mouth begins to speak. You don't tell them how it ended. You let them guess. You let them think she left. But the truth is, you remained, in the apartment, in the night, in the silence. She walked away with your softness. You kept the knife. And tonight, you remember every detail, the way her breath hitched, the way her hands hesitated. Not from mercy, but from decision. She did not regret it, and neither do you. because what she gave you wasn't just pain, it was clarity, a new skin. And now, as your breath softens in the dark, as your mind curls like smoke around the memory of her mouth, you wonder, was it really betrayal, or just a truth you were finally brave enough to hold still for? She doesn't look away when the blade slides in. That should have been your first clue. The way her eyes stay locked to yours, not out of defiance, but begging, like she's hoping you'll twitch, gasp, recoil. But you don't. You never do. The pain is nothing compared to the question she's asking with her hands. The metal kisses just beneath your ribs, not deep, not fatal, just enough to break the surface, just enough to let memory bleed out. You stare at her like she's a dream half remembered, something from a childhood fever, or the tail end of a nightmare, where teeth bloom in a mouth not made for speaking. Her hands are trembling, but not from fear. No, this is something else, grief in the shape of punishment. You should have stopped me, she whispers, but she doesn't pull away, and you don't stop her. You never did. Not when she opened the letter that started the fire. Not when she found the second phone, the one wrapped in guilt and screenshots. Not when she said your name like it tasted like blood. You said nothing. Because silence has always been your favorite weapon. You remember her mouth on yours the night before, the way it trembled like a prayer she didn't believe in anymore. You remember her laugh, brittle, off, tempo. You remember the way she asked if you loved her, and how you blinked instead of answering. You didn't lie, but that was worse. Now she's here. Now the steel in her hand is shaking, but not enough to make her stop. You wonder how many nights she rehearsed this. In mirrors, in dreams, in the quietest corners of herself. Not to kill you, just to see if you'd flinch. Because that would mean you cared. But you don't give her that, and that's what ruins her. The blood between you isn't rage. It's communion. You tilt your head, just a fraction, and ask, did it help? She blinks, and something inside her caves in. The blade is still inside you, her hand still wrapped around the hilt, but you're the one holding her now, not with arms, not with words, but with that unbearable stillness. She pulls it out slowly, like a secret being retracted. Your shirt sticks to your skin. The warmth of your own betrayal drips down in slow motion, mapping a trail down your side like a cartographer charting guilt. She steps back, breath ragged, and for a moment you think she's going to run. But she doesn't. She stares at her own hands, at what they've done, at what they failed to do. And you know, it's not the stab that haunts her. It's that you didn't scream. The room hums with the aftershock of a thing unfinished. There's no shouting, no collapse, just the weight of everything unsaid. You walk to the mirror, lift your shirt, inspect the wound, red, wet, beautiful. The kind of pain that doesn't punish, it sanctifies, and in the mirror, you see her reflection behind you, still, small, folding in on herself like a dying star. You should say something, something soft, something cruel, but you let the silence do the talking. It's always spoken louder than you. She sits, not on the couch, on the floor, like a child who broke something she can't afford to replace. You sit too, not beside her, across, a battlefield made of linoleum and old arguments. Why didn't you stop me? She asks again, and you almost answer. But instead, you close your eyes, not to escape, to remember, because somewhere once she held your face and called you hers, and somewhere else she was pulling at your shirt, asking for truth, and you gave her convenience. And somewhere else again, she found lipstick that wasn't hers, and again, and again, and again. You didn't stop her because you wanted her to know. You wanted her to see what she was never going to forgive. You wanted her to become the villain so you could remain the victim. But it didn't work. Not the way you hoped. She's not broken enough. You thought she'd be ashes by now. You thought your indifference would gut her clean. But instead, she stabbed you, gently, like a lover, and cried when you didn't bleed the way she needed you to. It was never about revenge. It was about acknowledgement. And you wouldn't give her that either. The room is colder now. You lie back, hand on your stomach, pressure against the wound. She watches, and for a moment, just a moment, you think she's going to reach for you, but her hands stay in her lap. Blood pools beneath you, quiet and slow. You stare at the ceiling and see constellations in the cracks. Maybe they're just water stains, but you assign them meaning anyway, like you always do. She shifts, stands, walks toward the door. You don't stop her. She pauses before leaving, hand on the knob. Then, finally, she asks it, "Did you ever love me?" And God, the H that question births, not because of what it means, but because of what it assumes. That love is something you give or withhold. That it's a currency. That it matters you don't answer. You never did. She leaves. And the silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of teeth. You close your eyes and smile, because somewhere you know she'll be back. Not for you, for the question you refuse to bury. And when she does, it won't be with a knife. It'll be with something quieter, more patient, more final. You never flinched when her hands hovered near your throat. That's the first thing you remember. Not the warmth, not the softness, but the way her fingers trembled like a fault line ready to split the world in half. And how you tilted your head back, inviting the rupture. It wasn't fear. You told yourself that again and again. It was devotion. It was surrender. It was the kind of hunger that makes a blade feel like mercy. She used to trace your veins like she was mapping escape routes. Always lightly, always slowly, like she wanted to make sure you felt the hesitation, not hers, but yours. And you did. Every brush of her hand over your skin made you question if you wanted to survive her or be ruined in a way that never healed right. She had this way of touching you like you were a wound. Not something to fix, but something to press on, just to see if you'd bleed. And you did, quietly, reverently. You bled in the way you stared too long, in the way you listened to the pauses between her words instead of the words themselves, in the way you waited, every night, for the sound of her breath at your back, half hope, half threat. Some nights, she whispered things in your ear that didn't sound like love but felt heavier, more permanent. Things like, "You make me feel like I could disappear." Things like, "Don't make me choose." But she was always choosing. Her hands never stopped shaking, not really. Even when they were steady. Even when they held your face like something fragile and failing. Especially then. You remember the night she touched your lips with 2 fingers, silent, like she was sealing a coffin. Her eyes said everything her mouth didn't. That she'd already begun digging a hole inside herself. And you were the soft, screaming thing she meant to bury. You told her you trusted her. She said nothing. You told her you weren't afraid of dying in her arms. She smiled. Not sweetly, not sadly, but with the slow, deliberate cruelty of someone who knew exactly how far they could take it before you'd beg for more. You did beg. Not with words, never with words, but with silence, with the way your body curled around hers like an apology, with the way your fingers clung to the sheets instead of her skin. You kept count of the nights she stayed, 12 and a half. The last half night was the one you remember most. You woke to the sound of her breathing, but it was off, measured, mechanical. Not sleep, not peace. It was decision. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at your chest like she could see through it. Her hands were clasped together, not shaking, not yet. Still. And you thought, If I move, she'll kill me. And you thought, if I don't, she'll leave. You didn't move. She did. But not far, just to the mirror. She stared at herself the way a sinner stares at their reflection, hoping to find forgiveness and only finding flesh. You watched her, pretending to sleep, breathing like someone who hadn't already died twice, once from her touch and once from the absence that followed it. When she finally turned, her face was wrong, too calm, and her hands, oh God, her hands, they didn't shake anymore. That was the moment you truly knew you'd lost her. Because the tremble, the hesitation, the flicker of doubt, it meant there was still something human in her, something breakable. But the stillness, that was colder than any goodbye. That was her final answer. She walked out like a ghost who had finally given up on haunting. No door slam, no scent left behind, just an absence so loud it made your ears ring. You waited. You counted heartbeats. You told yourself she'd come back when the trembling returned. But days passed, then weeks, and all that came back was her memory. Shaking, 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 like the echo of a storm that didn't kill you, but left you soaked and ruined. You began seeing her hands in everything, in shadows cast by strangers, in the way cigarette smoke curled, in the twitch of your own fingers when you tried to sleep. And you remembered. The way she touched your chest, like she was searching for a heartbeat she didn't believe in. The way her thumb brushed your lips, like she was testing how easily they could be sewn shut. The way she wrapped her arms around you after the first time. Not lovingly, but like a trap resetting itself. It wasn't passion. It wasn't care. It was decision. Always decision. You were just the pause she took between wanting and walking away. But even now, even here, even after, your body remembers. It remembers her fingers like fire. It remembers her silence like scripture. It remembers the tremor and how you mistook it for love. You still dream of her hands, not holding you, ending you. And the worst part, you still want it. That moment, that final, perfect tremble, the one where she couldn't decide if you were worth keeping alive or not. Because at least then, you were real to her. At least then, you were the question. Now, you're only the answer she walked away from. But tell me, when she sees her hands shake again, and she will, do you think she'll remember how steady they were when she let you go? You haven't moved the couch since she left. It sags in the middle like it's grieving too, a tired spine bent under the weight of all the things you never said. The cushions reek of her perfume, faint now, like a ghost that refuses to fully die. You bury your face in them sometimes, inhale until your lungs burn, hoping it will choke the memory into obedience. But the apartment doesn't forget. The apartment remembers everything. The tiles in the kitchen still hold her heel prints. Faint crescent moons of dirt and pressure. You've traced them with your fingers at night, whispering apologies into the grout. You imagine the cracks widening just to hear more, stretching open like wounds hungry for the taste of your remorse. It still leaks in the corner. That same pipe. That same soft plink, plink, plink that used to drive her mad. Now it drives you mad in a different way. It's the only sound left. A rhythm for your thoughts to dance to, slow and stupid. Sometimes you answer it. Sometimes you pretend it's her knocking. You don't answer the door anymore, not even for deliveries. You eat what's left in the pantry like a monk, quietly, desperately, with trembling hands that forget to be careful. You thought time would cauterize it. But the rot has rhythm. It spreads behind the walls, under your nails, in your mouth. The mirrors have stopped showing your face. Or maybe it's you who stopped looking. You tried to erase her once, threw out the bedsheets, bleached the mugs, deleted the photos. But the shadows stayed. The drawer she never closed. The lip of the bathroom sink, where she left her hairpins like rusted reminders. The dent in the hallway where she threw her phone. And you flinched, but didn't duck. You weren't afraid of her rage. You were afraid of how much sense it made. There are nights you swear the door creaks open again. Slowly, deliberately. You lie there on the warped mattress, back sticky with sweat, pretending you didn't just hold your breath like a child waiting for a monster to step inside. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it's you. You walk the apartment in circles, barefoot and muttering. You narrate the silence like it's a script only you can read. Here, she laughed. Here, she cried. Here, you ruined everything. You tell the walls these stories and they shiver with mold. The plaster peels in delicate curls, like paper scabs. You leave them hanging. You like the way they look, like something trying to shed its skin but never quite managing. You still sleep on your side of the bed. Her pillow is untouched, but heavier somehow. You think grief weighs more when it pretends to be forgotten. Your phone stays dead now. No one calls. No one cares. And yet you check it every hour, just in case the universe makes a mistake. You'd welcome one. You'd cradle it in your palms like a bird with broken wings and beg it to stay. But it doesn't. Nothing does. She left the door open when she ran. That detail haunts you more than the screaming. It wasn't panic. It was precision. It was a gift. A gesture. She didn't slam it. She didn't lock it. She let it hang ajar, like an accusation, like an offer. Like she knew the only prison you'd need was this apartment, and the version of yourself left inside it. And she was right. She always was. You remember her handwriting, sharp, deliberate, a little arrogant. There's a note still pinned to the fridge with a dull magnet that says, "Don't forget the milk." You stare at it sometimes like it's scripture. You don't even drink milk. You tried to invite someone over once. Just once. But her presence was still in the walls, slick and watching. You felt her jealousy leaking from the vents, cold and wet and angry. The guest left after 20 minutes, said the air felt too tight. You agreed. You didn't ask them to stay. You don't want new people. You want her shadow. You want her venom. You want the look she gave you when she realized you'd never love her the way she deserved. You want her anger because it meant she still wanted something from you, even if it was just pain. Now, you get nothing. Just the drip of the pipe, just the creak of the wood, just the taste of her name on the back of your tongue, bitter and unspoken. You talk to her through the faucet now. Late at night, when the building sleeps and the moon slices through the blinds like a knife, you whisper things you never said when she was here. Things like, "I'm sorry," and "I was scared," and "I never wanted you to leave. I just didn't know how to ask you to stay." The faucet doesn't answer, but it weeps. You wonder if she ever thinks about the apartment. If she drives by, if she sees the light flickering in the window and mistakes it for life. You leave it on for her. You always leave it on. The couch groans when you sit. The floor whines when you shift your weight. Everything here has a voice, and none of it is kind. But it's familiar. It's faithful. It doesn't lie to you the way you lied to her. You told her you didn't care. You told her you were fine. You told her she was free. You were wrong on all counts. You spend most of your time now staring at the walls. They seem closer than they used to be. Maybe they're growing in slowly, like they're tired of watching you decay and just want to end it. Or maybe you're just shrinking. You think about the stain in the ceiling, how it blooms wider with every rainstorm, how it looks like an eye now, always open, always watching. You speak to it sometimes, and sometimes it blinks. You hear her laugh before you remember the room you're in. It's sharp, not because it's loud, but because it's familiar in the way a blade remembers your skin. A laugh like glass cracked just enough to cut, still hanging whole in the window frame. It fills the space like perfume from a bottle you never opened, haunting every corner of the air. You flinch before you understand why. She used to laugh like that when she was yours, though she never truly was. Not really. Ownership was a fantasy you dressed in her favorite perfume and chained to your spine. You thought if you loved her beautifully enough, she'd love you quietly back, but she loved like a warning. Distant, pretty, and edged with something you didn't want to name. Now, the laugh circles you, like it knows the shape of your guilt. You sit still. You've learned stillness is safer. Movement draws attention, and attention is something she used to devour, not sip. When she'd tilt her head just so, candlelight collecting in her eyes like secrets, you believed her. You wanted to. You needed the lie more than the truth could stand. It wasn't the kiss that ruined you. It was how she laughed after. You play it back, the shape of her mouth, the slow curl of it. That smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You didn't know smiles could be masks until hers refused to peel. You told her something real once, something broken and trembling, and she responded with that sound. A laugh like bells dropped down a well, echoed empty, cold. You try to recall what you said to earn it. Was it the confession about your father's silence? About the time you cried on a bathroom floor just to feel something tender against the tiles? Or maybe it was when you told her that you loved her like hunger, not romance, like you needed her to live. And she laughed, the kind of laugh that makes the room shrink, that makes your lungs hesitate, your pulse fold inward. That night, her laughter was louder than your name. Now it comes back in loops. You try to breathe, but memory clings like a damp shirt. The sound of her is everywhere. Not her voice, just the shape of it. Her scent too. Burnt vanilla. Like sugar that stayed too long in the flame. You always said she smelled like kindness about to go wrong. You were right. You never saw the razor, but it was there. Between her lips, tucked behind her laughter like a silver secret. It never nicked her. Only you bled silently. Because what else could you do? Who would believe you? A man bruised by something invisible. A man cut open by a smile. You wore the wounds in your sleep. Spoke to ghosts shaped like her. Whispered, "I'm sorry," to the walls because maybe if you were good enough, her laugh wouldn't hurt so much. But apologies are useless when the crime is trusting. And still, some part of you misses her. Not the real her, but the version you dreamed in moments where her eyes softened, where her hands didn't flinch. You wonder if that version ever existed, or if you made her up just to survive her. You don't know anymore. You remember the party, the blue dress, the way she leaned in and said your name like it was someone else's. You knew then she was unpeeling herself from your story, thread by thread. But when she laughed, not cruelly, just carelessly, it felt like the final thread snapped, and you unraveled under it. You're still unraveling. The room is quiet now, but the laugh stays threaded behind your eyes, stitched into the soft meat of your mind. You could cut it out, maybe, if you still believed in healing, but you don't. Healing means she won, means she left a mark and you scrubbed it clean. And part of you clings to the wound, because it's the only piece of her you can still feel. You carry her cruelty like a charm. You tell yourself she didn't mean it, that laughter was a reflex, not a weapon. But you know better. There's a cruelty that hides in timing, in tone, in how someone chooses not to reach for your hand when you're drowning, just watches from shore, amused. She laughed while you sank. Now, every kindness feels suspicious. Every smile feels rehearsed. You've become fluent in the language of hidden blades, fluent in laughter that cuts. Because once you've been carved by something that looked like love, you learn to look for the glint. You don't laugh anymore, not because you've forgotten how, but because you're afraid it'll sound like hers, and that's a sound you never want to echo again. Still, sometimes late at night, you mouth the laugh back into existence, silently, like a prayer said in reverse, because if you can mimic the sound, maybe you can understand it. Maybe you can hold it without bleeding. Maybe. But tonight, the laugh returns, soft, slippery, slithering through the walls like a secret wanting to be heard. You don't know if it's real or just your memory dressing itself in sound again. You listen anyway. You always do. And it says something. Not with words, with the silence after. Because that's when it hurts most. Not when she laughed, but when she stopped. And if her laughter was the weapon, what does that make the silence she left behind? A warning, or a promise waiting to be kept. You keep it hidden behind the old books you never read, inside the hollowed out spine of a dictionary that no longer defines anything real. The knife doesn't shine anymore, not like it did that night, when the moon held its breath and your heart forgot how to stutter. It's quiet now, the kind of quiet that leaks, slow and patient, into the bones of a house. But the knife, it speaks, not in words. No, in temperature shifts, in the heaviness of drawers you don't remember opening, in dreams that start with her laughter and end with the sound of something sharp leaving something soft. You tell yourself it's over, that what happened is finished, but the blade remains, and your fingerprints, remain with it, like lovers too ashamed to be seen in daylight. Sometimes, you catch yourself tracing the handle with your thumb. Not to remember her, but to remember yourself. The self that did it. The self that said yes. The self that said enough. Because she asked for it, didn't she? Not with her words, but with her silences. The way she never blinked when you confessed the worst parts of you. The way she leaned in when you lied. The way she smiled like forgiveness and tasted like dare. You never meant to keep it, but when you saw the way it lay there, still, loyal, stained with the truth, you understood. Some things aren't trophies. Some things are anchors. The knife is clean now. You made sure of it. You scrubbed until the metal whined beneath your nails. Until your hands shook with effort, and your chest with something that wasn't quite grief, wasn't quite relief. You cleaned the blade, but you never cleaned your memory, because even if the steel is sterile, your thoughts are not. They bleed nightly, and the knife listens. It lives in the same rhythm your breath does, irregular, haunted, and you listen too. Because late at night, when the city quiets and the echoes grow teeth, it speaks to you in tones she never used. Sometimes guilt, sometimes prayer, sometimes hunger. You wonder what it remembers, if it remembers her better than you do now, because the image is softening, her face, fog on glass, her voice, static in a tunnel, but the feeling, that moment, that remains. You've started locking the drawer, even though you live alone, as if you fear the house itself might reach for it, as if memory might grow hands, as if ghosts know how to pick locks, and still you open it. Every time the ache flares up in your chest, like a whisper with claws, you open it. You look at the blade, and it looks back. You think about the weight of it in your hand, how natural it felt, how solid, how alive. Not the way people feel in your arms. People are soft, uncertain. People shift, sweat, lie. But steel is faithful. There are moments you wish you had kept it as a trophy, that you could look at it and feel power, triumph, completion. But that's not what this is. This is proof. Proof that you once had a boundary and you crossed it. Proof that love, when starved long enough, will bite the hand that feeds it. proof that you were not imagining the way her eyes flicked when you raised your voice, the way she laughed when you cried, the way she said you're nothing without me, and believed it. You didn't keep the knife because of her. You kept it because of you. Because it remembers you in a way no one else does. They all think you've healed, that you've moved on. Smiling at grocery stores, saying thank you to the cashier, sleeping through storms, but they don't know about the drawer, about the way your shoulders tense before you walk past it. The ritual of checking, just checking, to make sure it's still there, still waiting, still honest. You wonder if she knew. That night, that last look, was it surprise, regret, or something else? Did she finally understand you? No one talks about what it feels like after. Not the panic. That fades, not the guilt. That evolves. But the silence is forever, and the silence is where the blade sings. It sings of who you were before you begged, before you broke. It sings of the moment everything made sense. And it asks, would you do it again? And you don't answer, because some questions deserve silence. Because maybe silence is the truest confession. But the knife already knows. It always knew. It was in your palm before your mind caught up. It was truth before you ever spoke it. There's a part of you that waits for it to ask again, to call you back, to bring you that feeling, not relief, but clarity. The terrible grace of finality. You keep the blade for the same reason people keep mirrors, not to see themselves, but to remember what they used to be. Sometimes, when you wake up in sweat and silence, you walk to the drawer, not to touch, just to know. You stand there, breathing, listening, wondering, what if it misses you too? What if it's not memory that clings, but need? What if the blade doesn't want to be forgotten, any more than you do? And if it whispered your name tomorrow, would you pretend not to hear it? Or would you answer, like before? You see them before they see you. Across the room, in a blur of sound and dim light, they gather like birds on a wire, smiling, sipping, scattering secrets like seeds. Their voices are wind chimes, pretty, sharp, untrustworthy. You used to think they liked you, that their glances were warm, not weapons. But warmth doesn't linger like fingerprints on broken glass. You move slower now, watchful, not with fear. No, that was peeled from you months ago, but with something colder, a tension wrapped in velvet. You smile too as you approach. It fits like a lie you've worn before. Hey stranger, one says. That word, stranger, ripples, as if you're the one who changed, as if you're the one who left a knife on a nightstand and a truth unsaid. You nod, you pretend. You're good at pretending now. That's what betrayal teaches you. Not sadness, not anger, just performance. You smile like you haven't traced back every memory, every glance, every shared joke that wasn't meant for you. She's not here, of course, but they are. The aftertaste of her echo in their laughter, the shadow of her in every side eye and pause. You take your seat among them like nothing ever happened. Your drink is cold. Their eyes are colder. So, another says, playing with her straw, you've been quiet lately. You blink. That word again. Quiet. Like silence is an admission of guilt. Like not speaking is suspicious. Like screaming wouldn't have been worse. I've been thinking, you reply. That's true. You've been thinking about the sound of her laugh when she lied. About how her phone always lit up face down. About the way they never told you. Not directly, not with words, but with everything else. You watch them now, not their eyes. Eyes are practiced, but their hands. Guilt lives in the fingers. It curbs, avoids, and her best friend, the one who always hugged you too tight, won't meet your gaze at all. They shift, laugh, order more drinks. The conversation turns. Work, weather, someone else's breakup. But under it all, something festers. It's not just what they did. It's that they smiled through it. Celebrated birthdays, toasted promotions, called you family, while holding the match behind their back. Maybe they didn't know the whole story, but they knew enough. They knew how she touched you in public and shrank away in private. They knew how she whispered your name like an apology, but only when no one was watching. They knew how often she forgot to text back but always had time for them. They knew, and still they smiled. You sip your drink, it tastes like memory. There was a night, you remember it now, where they laughed too hard at a joke you weren't in on. A night she disappeared for just 10 minutes too long. A night you found her looking flustered, cheeks flushed, saying something about the bathroom line. You want to ask them now, was it that night? Was it all of them? Did you take turns gutting me, or was it a group effort? But instead, you smile again, because this isn't about answers. This is about exposure. And you've learned. Silence reveals more than shouting. You reach for your phone. Tap open a photo, the last one you ever took of her, lipstick smudged, half smile, guilt already blooming in her eyes. You hold it up just enough for them to see. They look, and then they look. Their smiles falter, but only for a second. She misses you. One lies. You almost laugh. Almost. She said it wasn't like that. Another offers. Like that. As if betrayal is a shape you can soften with language. She was confused, says the third. And you want to say, so were you. When did you decide to choose her lies over my trust? When did my silence become your scapegoat? But you say none of that. You just watch them squirm. Because now, you understand something. Guilt is heavy. But shared guilt is unbearable. And they've been carrying it together, knotting their shame into loyalty. That's why they still smile. It's not confidence. It's panic polished. One of them excuses herself. Bathroom. But you know better. You've seen that look before. In mirrors, in shadows. It's not about needing to leave. It's about needing to run. You let her go. The others fumble for words. You give them none. Silence is a mirror, and you've learned how to hold it up just right. Someone finally asks, "Do you hate us?" The question hangs, not like a balloon, but a noose. You tilt your head, watching her closely. "No," you say slowly. "I think you already hate yourselves. You're just waiting for me to confirm it." The table goes still. Outside, a siren wails, distant but getting closer. You rise. Not because you're finished, but because you've said enough. The rest will eat them from the inside. You've seen what silence does. As you walk away, you glance back once. They're watching you. Not with guilt, not yet, but with dread. And that's better, because guilt fades, but dread lingers. You wonder what she told them, what lies she needed them to believe, and more importantly, what truths they already knew, but pretended were love. Next time, maybe you'll ask, or maybe you'll let them rot in the not knowing. It's almost funny, the way it waits for you. Dust blanketed, wedged beneath the bed like a secret ashamed of itself. The box. A small, unremarkable thing. The kind that once held shoes or memories, now trembling beneath your fingertips like a live animal pretending to be dead. You crouch, the floor groaning beneath your weight, your breath louder than it should be. It smells like her under here. Dry shampoo, vanilla lotion, and something sour underneath. The cardboard peels back like skin, easy too easy. No resistance, no hesitation. That was always her talent. The vanishing act without the smoke, just silence and aftermath. Inside a stack of letters, never sent. Her handwriting, all loops and hesitation. Your name appears again and again, each stroke of ink and incision. She was carving you out of her even while smiling into your mouth. The dates don't lie. The first letter is 2 weeks before your first fight. The last one, the one that begins with "I can't love you the way you need," is dated 3 days before the trip, 3 days before the hotel, 3 days before her moans stitched themselves into your ribs like lullabies meant to distract. You reread them all. Every line is a crack in the mirror you built of her. She doesn't bleed affection, she bleeds freedom. She doesn't ache for you, she mourns herself. She was already leaving. She never kissed you. She kissed the absence of guilt, because it tasted cleaner than truth. You pause on the 5th letter. If he finds this, I hope he understands. But I don't think he will. It's not just the sentence. It's the certainty. The casual cruelty. The way she never once doubts you will be the one left behind. Not the other boy. Not the other version of her. You. The one with the loyalty problem. The one who mistook persistence for love. You take the letter to your mouth before you realize what you're doing. Tongue pressed to her ink like, maybe it will taste like her breath. It doesn't. It tastes like dust and cowardice. This is the moment where you should cry, but your body has moved past water. You spread the letters on the floor like tarot cards, each one a different version of her betrayal. Some are riddled with guilt. Others read like she was practicing being free. Not once did she beg for you to understand her. She only begged to escape without bleeding too much. There's a photo tucked into the last envelope. You at the beach. She's behind you, barely in the frame, mid-laugh, hair wild, face turned to someone else. You remember this moment. You were asking her if she was cold. She said no. She said she liked the wind. Now you wonder who warmed her while you were busy building castles out of fucking promises. You lie on your back and hold the photo above you. Her smile hovers like a ghost refusing to haunt properly. She never wanted to be a memory. She wanted to be a vanishing point. You should burn it all. That's what the movies say. Clean break. Dramatic smoke. But your fingers tighten instead. This pain, it feels useful. It feels like yours. You return to the box. Deeper now. Something taped to the bottom. A small, flat gift box. Still wrapped. Still bowed. The tag reads "For when you finally leave me." You don't remember ever receiving this. Of course not. It was meant for the version of you who walks away first. You open it. Inside a key, a hotel card, and a scrap of paper that says room 407. One night to forget me. You laugh. It's dry. Empty. She always gave permission too late. She knew you wouldn't use it. That's the trap. Freedom offered after she caged you in her orbit. You sit there, surrounded by letters and lies, wondering how long she rehearsed this. How many exits she mapped while you were still building a home. The bed above you creaks with the weight of her absence. You remember her voice whispering half, asleep confessions. The way she'd curl around you like she was hiding something. Maybe she was. Maybe it was always this box. You wonder how many things she gave away before she gave herself to you. You wonder if he found a box too, or if she only buried the truth with you, because you were the one she needed to forget most violently. You try to stand. Your knees disagree. The world tilts, and suddenly you're back in that hotel, room 407. Not physically, but emotionally. The silence. The way she looked at the door more than she looked at you. The way she held your hand like it was a goodbye she didn't want to make too obvious. You curl your fingers around the keycard. It's probably expired. But the gesture breathes. For when you finally leave me. But you never did. And now it's too late. She beat you to the ending, and you're stuck memorizing the credits. You pick up the letter with your name on it. The one where she says you deserve someone softer, someone kinder. You laugh again. What a joke. You were the soft one. That was the problem. Outside it rains. It always rains when you remember the things she forgot to bury. You tuck the photo back in the box. You want to stab through her smile with a pen, but something stops you. Maybe it's pity. Maybe it's possession. Maybe you're still trying to preserve the version of her that loved you before the timelines unravel. You whisper her name, just once. Just to see if the walls flinch. They don't. You crawl out from under the bed. The box remains, open, honest in its quiet ruin. You leave it that way, like a shrine, like a crime scene, like the truth you didn't ask for but got anyway. You lie down where she used to sleep. Her pillow still smells like something almost familiar. You close your eyes. The letters are still there, inches away, breathing in the dark. And somewhere in your mind, the door to room 407 swings open. There is no one waiting. You wonder, if you'd found the box sooner, would you have left her? Or would you have begged to be lied to better? Because maybe some betrayals are love letters rewritten, just late enough to hurt. It's almost funny the way it waits for you. Dust, blanketed, wedged beneath the bed like a secret ashamed of itself. The box. A small, unremarkable thing. The kind that once held shoes or memories. Now trembling beneath your fingertips like a live animal pretending to be dead. You crouch, the floor groaning beneath your weight, your breath louder than it should be. It smells like her under here. Dry shampoo, vanilla lotion, and something sour underneath. The cardboard peels back like skin, easy, too easy. No resistance, no hesitation. That was always her talent. The vanishing act without the smoke. Just silence and aftermath. Inside a stack of letters, never sent. Her handwriting, all loops and hesitation. Your name appears again and again, each stroke of ink an incision. She was carving you out of her even while smiling into your mouth. The dates don't lie. The first letter is 2 weeks before your first fight. The last one, the one that begins with "I can't love you the way you need," is dated 3 days before the trip. 3 days before the hotel. 3 days before her moans stitched themselves into your ribs like lullabies meant to distract. You reread them all. Every line is a crack in the mirror you built of her. She doesn't bleed affection. She bleeds freedom. She doesn't ache for you. She mourns herself. She was already leaving. She never kissed you. She kissed the absence of guilt, because it tasted cleaner than truth. You pause on the 5th letter. If he finds this, I hope he understands. But I don't think he will. It's not just the sentence. It's the certainty. The casual cruelty. The way she never once doubts you will be the one left behind. Not the other boy. Not the other version of her. You. The one with the loyalty problem. The one who mistook persistence for love. You take the letter to your mouth before you realize what you're doing. Tongue pressed to her ink, like maybe it will taste like her breath. It doesn't. It tastes like dust and cowardice. This is the moment where you should cry. But your body has moved past water. You spread the letters on the floor like tarot cards. Each one a different version of her betrayal. Some are riddled with guilt. Others read like she was practicing being free. Not once did she beg for you to understand her. She only begged to escape without bleeding too much. There's a photo tucked into the last envelope. You at the beach. She's behind you, barely in the frame, mid-laugh, hair wild, face turned to someone else. You remember this moment. You were asking her if she was cold. She said no. She said she liked the wind. Now you wonder who warmed her while you were busy building castles out of fucking promises. You lie on your back and hold the photo above you. Her smile hovers like a ghost refusing to haunt properly. She never wanted to be a memory. She wanted to be a vanishing point. You should burn it all. That's what the movies say. Clean break, dramatic smoke, but your fingers tighten instead. This pain, it feels useful. It feels like yours. You return to the box. Deeper now. Something taped to the bottom. A small, flat gift box, still wrapped, still bowed. The tag reads for "When you finally leave me." You don't remember ever receiving this. Of course not. It was meant for the version of you who walks away first. You open it. Inside a key, a hotel card, and a scrap of paper that says Room 407. One night to forget me. You laugh. It's dry, empty. She always gave permission too late. She knew you wouldn't use it. That's the trap. Freedom offered after she caged you in her orbit. You sit there, surrounded by letters and lies, wondering how long she rehearsed this, how many exits she mapped while you were still building a home. The bed above you creaks with the weight of her absence. You remember her voice whispering half, asleep confessions. The way she'd curl around you like she was hiding something. Maybe she was. Maybe it was always this box. You wonder how many things she gave away before she gave herself to you. You wonder if he found a box too, or if she only buried the truth with you, because you were the one she needed to forget most violently. You try to stand. Your knees disagree. The world tilts, and suddenly you're back in that hotel, room 407. Not physically, but emotionally. The silence. The way she looked at the door more than she looked at you. The way she held your hand like it was a goodbye she didn't want to make too obvious. You curl your fingers around the key card. It's probably expired. But the gesture breathes. For when you finally leave me. But you never did. And now it's too late. She beat you to the ending, and you're stuck memorizing the credits. You pick up the letter with your name on it. The one where she says you deserve someone softer, someone kinder. You laugh again. What a joke. You were the soft one. That was the problem. Outside, it rains. It always rains when you remember the things she forgot to bury. You tuck the photo back in the box. You want to stab through her smile with a pen, but something stops you. Maybe it's pity. Maybe it's possession. Maybe you're still trying to preserve the version of her that loved you before the timelines unravel. You whisper her name. Just once. Just to see if the walls flinch. They don't. You crawl out from under the bed. The box remains, open, honest in its quiet ruin. You leave it that way, like a shrine, like a crime scene, like the truth you didn't ask for but got anyway. You lie down where she used to sleep. Her pillow still smells like something almost familiar. You close your eyes. The letters are still there, inches away, breathing in the dark. And somewhere in your mind, the door to room 407 swings open. There is no one waiting. You wonder. If you'd found the box sooner, would you have left her? Or would you have begged to be lied to better? Because maybe some betrayals are love letters rewritten just late enough to hurt. She's gone, and yet you've never been closer to her. She haunts the sidewalk ahead of you. Not her face, not quite, but the way her shoulder tilts when she laughs. The way her heel kisses the curb and lifts like she's about to turn around. You watch strangers become mirrors, and every mirror tells you a different version of her absence. You don't go home anymore. Home is where her name used to echo in the walls, where her mug still lives in the back of your cabinet like it never got the memo. Now, your home is a moving target, a grocery aisle, a fleeting glimpse in the reflection of a subway window, a silhouette passing beneath a street lamp. You chase ghosts, and they wear her perfume. It started with that girl at the train station, her back to you, a blue scarf tight around her throat, head tilted like she was listening to the same memory. You followed without thinking. 1 step, then 2, then 30. You watched her walk like her bones remembered you, like her hips were sculpted to carry your regret. But when she turned, her eyes were too kind. You apologized and she smiled. She didn't know that you weren't apologizing for the following. You were apologizing for the betrayal. Every corner of the city knows her name now. Billboards, shop signs, a cafe called Alina's, a lipstick named Dead Ringer. You buy one and smear it on your wrist, then your mouth, then the mirror. You remember how she used to wear color like a dare. Red when she was done apologizing. Nude when she wanted you to look deeper. Nothing at all when she wanted to disappear. You scroll through old messages and find one you never opened. I left the key under the orchid. No emoji. No punctuation. Just enough to unhinge you. You never had an orchid. You don't know what key she's talking about. You read it 40 times anyway. You search for her in doorways, in bathroom stalls, in the space between one stranger's laughter and the next. You play a game with your mind count, how many times you almost saw her today. You always lose count before noon. Sometimes you think she sends decoys. Girls with the same knee scar, the same shade of cruelty in their lip gloss, the same scent that trails behind like a dare. You start following them more often. At first from a distance, then closer, then shoulder to shoulder. You pretend it's a coincidence when you both reach for the same bottle of wine. You say things like, "You smell like someone I used to trust." They laugh, not realizing you're serious. You leave your phone on silent, but keep checking it anyway. You know she won't call. You know she's blocked you. You call your own number just to hear the voicemail she used to record for you. "Hey, can't come to the phone right now, but I hope it's me you wanted anyway." You never changed it. At night, she invades your sleep with surgical precision. A laugh at the wrong moment, a memory that's missing its ending, a door that keeps opening into her old bedroom, except it's never quite her bedroom. Wrong wallpaper, wrong bed, right scream. You wake up sweating and swear you can smell her shampoo. You check the locks. You check the closet. You check yourself in the mirror and barely recognize the version of you that doesn't have her hand pressed into his shoulder blade. You stop sleeping eventually. You call it staying sharp. Your therapist called it a spiral. You stopped going when she asked you to let go. You find a girl who looks like her, not in the face, but in the way she holds her phone like it's a weapon. You ask her to tell you a secret. She says, "I steal perfume from department stores." You ask her to wear something that reminds you of absence. She doesn't ask what you mean. You kiss her like you're trying to erase her. She moans in the exact pitch you remember. You almost cry. But afterward, when she turns away, her back doesn't arch the way hers did. You stare at the ceiling and wonder what it means to survive someone who still lives inside you. You start writing her letters you'll never send. They all begin with, "You'll never believe what I thought I saw today," and end with, "Why do you keep sending pieces of yourself back?" You burn them. You scatter the ashes in your sink. One day, you find a small grey smear shaped exactly like her smile. You keep it. Sometimes you hallucinate her laughter in the supermarket. It comes from aisle 9. But when you run, it's just a child's toy glitching. You convince yourself she's testing you, leaving breadcrumbs in perfume, playlists, sidewalk chalk. You find a chalk heart outside your apartment that says, "You were always watching." You stare at it until rain blurs the words into accusation. One night, you think you see her reflection in a cab window. You race 3 blocks. Your chest seizes. You tap the glass, but she's already turned into someone else. And then, something cracks. Not loud. Not sudden. Just a slow fracture in the space between knowing and believing. You forget your own birthday, but remember the way she once said your name like a warning. You forget how long it's been since she left. You remember the last thing she ever said to you. "You don't love me." You love the idea of me not loving you back. She was right. That idea never left. You carry it now like a shadow, like a twin born from rot. You keep walking, keep chasing. Keep mistaking the past for something still breathing. Because the worst part isn't that she's moved on. It's that she still exists. Just out of reach, just in the corner of your eye, just close enough to ruin every other face. She's not gone. Not really. You just forgot what her absence sounds like when it starts to scream. So tell me, when was the last time you saw her face without turning around? You imagine her standing there, not as she is now, but how she once looked when she let you matter. Her mouth still red from lying. Her eyes half lidded with the ease of cruelty. She's not looking at you. She never was. You speak, but the words hit the floor like teeth. Brittle, scattered, ignored. You don't want revenge. You want the permission to ask, why? Why you weren't enough? Why your tenderness was just another silence she walked through? Why she kissed you with the knife still warm? But there is no room for questions in a grave. And she buried your voice long before she left. You rehearsed the lines in the mirror some nights. In the steam. In the blur. In the blood. Things you would have said if she had stayed long enough to listen. If she hadn't folded you into some quiet file labeled almost. If she hadn't fed your name to someone else's mouth. I loved you even when I knew it would ruin me. But mirrors are cowards. They never echo back what you need. Just show you all the ways your mouth shakes before you speak. All the ways your eyes don't blink when her name surfaces like a bruise. You trace the ghosts of conversations. She's laughing in them sometimes. Not with you. Never with you. But beside you like a shadow dressed in warmth. And the worst part, you believed it. You believed in the version of her that never truly existed. You loved a rumor and kissed the evidence into your own skin. The things you'd say now aren't elegant. They don't dress themselves in poetry or restraint. They burn. They claw. They come out wet and wounded. I stayed even when you emptied me. I watched you lie, and I still begged to be your truth. I would have forgiven you, even now. But none of that matters, because she isn't listening. She's somewhere else, smiling at someone else, touching them in the same rhythm she swore was only yours. And you wonder if they know, if they'll ever hear her whisper that same lie, the one you held like gospel. I don't love anyone the way I love you. How many versions of her said that, and how many of you believed it? Sometimes you want to scream, not for her to come back, but for her to remember. Just remember. Your laugh. Your hands. Your fucking birthday. But she forgets beautifully. She forgets like she was trained to. And you remember in static. You remember in the way your heart skips when a stranger wears her perfume. In the way certain songs sound like the way she left. You remember in reverse, starting from the goodbye and crawling backwards, until even the love feels like a lie. If you could speak now, if the world allowed it, you wouldn't scream, you wouldn't curse, you wouldn't beg, you'd whisper, "Why did you teach me how to love you if you were never going to stay?" But ghosts don't answer. They haunt. And she haunts in little ways. In the way your bed never feels big enough for healing. In the way your phone lights up with a number that isn't hers and your stomach still drops. In the way you hold yourself tighter some nights just to keep from calling. The voice in your head that mimics hers still asks, "Why didn't you just let me go?" And the voice in your throat responds, "Because you didn't say I had to." You stayed because love is a sickness that doesn't know when it's been cured. Because her absence still tastes like medicine you weren't ready to take. And if she walked in now, wearing that same smirk, pulling that same knife, you'd still ask, did it mean anything, even once? And if she said no, you'd thank her for the honesty. And if she said yes, you'd curse her for the cruelty. because both answers ruin you, one with absence, one with hope. So instead, you write her letters you never send. You burn them in your sink. You bury them in your chest. Every "what if" becomes another version of you, weaker, sadder, still waiting. There's a version of you in another life where you asked all these things, where she answered, where she cried, where she stayed. But this isn't that life. This is the one where you wake up every morning and lie to yourself. I'm over it. You're not. You won't be. Because what you wanted wasn't closure. It was acknowledgement. You wanted her to say, I saw you. I knew what I was doing. I hurt you on purpose. But instead she vanishes. Not with silence, but with indifference. She doesn't remember your voice. She doesn't know your questions. And you are left echoing yourself into madness. So you write. You scream into pages. You practice your last words over and over again like they're part of a ritual. Because if she ever turns around, you want to be ready. But what if she does? What if one day she walks back through that door and says, "Talk to me"? Would you? Or would you simply look at her, quiet and full of ash, and ask the only thing that's ever mattered? Did you ever miss me while I was burning? You say nothing now, not out of strength, but because your voice has turned to rust. The words are still there, lodged in your throat like a scream too ashamed to surface. And if she ever hears them, she'll smile, soft and cruel, and whisper, "Too late." But late is better than never, isn't it? You don't play it all at once. Just the beginning. Just the part where she says your name, like she forgot who she was calling. Like she wasn't sure if she wanted you to answer or disappear. You let it loop. 4 seconds of static and hesitation. Then her breath catching like she'd just stopped crying, or just started. You've memorized the way her tongue brushes the roof of her mouth when she tries to say, "Sorry," and swallows it instead. The way silence clots the space between words, like blood refusing to flow. She never says goodbye. That's the part that undoes you. Because it means she thought maybe she'd see you again, or maybe she hoped you'd come looking. You keep the voicemail saved, not for the words, for the air around them, for the proof that she used to breathe, and somewhere, so did you. You don't cry when you listen. You don't scream or shatter a glass. You just listen, over and over, like it's a ritual, like it keeps her tethered to this world, or you to hers. She's calling from a parking lot. You can hear the echo of emptiness behind her. A shopping cart clangs in the background like an omen. Somewhere, a child is screaming, not in pain, just insistence. She flinches. You can hear it, even in sound. She was always trying not to exist too loudly. She says, "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." But she doesn't say what this is. She assumes you'll know. She assumes you remember. You do. You remember the way she left the window cracked, so her scent would linger and rot. You remember the missing toothbrush, the drawer she cleared like she was erasing evidence, the coffee mug she left on the counter, not washed, not used, just placed, a monument to abandonment. Sometimes you wonder if she knew you'd keep the voicemail, if she shaped every word like a dagger she wanted you to cradle. She never had to be cruel. She just had to be honest. And honesty was always sharper than anything you could weaponize. There's a tremor at the 12-second mark. Her voice folds in on itself like a body collapsing mid-prayer. It's the closest she ever came to confessing. And still, it's not enough. You imagine her lips on the receiver, close enough to kiss it, far enough to mean it. You start listening with your eyes closed, not for clarity, for hallucination. It helps. You see her clearer when you're not awake. Her voice becomes the needle, and you, the vein. Every replay is a fresh injection of memory. Every pause is a calm down, every silence, withdrawal. You rewind to the part where she almost says, "I love you." She doesn't, but she breathes in like she wants to. And then, static. You've tried cleaning the audio. You downloaded apps, plugins, filters. You even emailed a sound engineer once, asked if ghosts could be removed from recordings. He didn't reply. Smart man. Sometimes, when you're tired enough, you swear she says something different. A name that isn't yours. A plan that wasn't yours to hear. A truth you weren't meant to keep. And still, you listen. Because the alternative is forgetting. And forgetting is louder than anything she ever said. You time your breathing to hers. You mouth the words before she says them. You're not reliving, you're rehearsing, as if, one day, you'll call yourself and leave this same message. As if, one day, you will be the voice someone can't delete. You save the file in different formats, backed up on multiple drives, labeled with decoy names, taxes, Project 1, hold notes. You've become a curator of your own decay. Your phone battery dies more often now. You blame the voicemail. You say it drains energy, not metaphorically, literally. You once let someone else hear it. Just once, they said. She sounds scared. You said, no, she sounds final. They didn't get it. They weren't meant to. She ends the message with a sound. A kind of wet pause, like she's biting her cheek. Maybe she's trying not to say what she's thinking. Maybe she already did. Maybe the words bled through the silence and you were too numb to catch them. You play it again and again, not to remember, but to confirm. You were never wrong. You were just warned. You mouth along, "Hey, it's me." You wait for the break in her voice, the wound between syllables. It always comes, right after, "I didn't want it to end like." Then static, then nothing. The clean, cold nothing that comes after someone chooses not to finish a sentence. Not because they can't, but because they don't think you deserve the rest. And maybe you didn't. Maybe that was the punishment, not being left, but being left with just enough. Enough to obsess, enough to dissect, enough to rot from the inside, one syllable at a time. The voicemail ends. You replay. You always replay. You begin to wonder if she ever existed at all, or if she was just a soundbite stitched together from your own need, a memory forged from guilt and silence, a voice you invented to have something worth mourning. You think about deleting it, just to see if anything in you fights back. But you don't. You never do. You turn the volume down and listen with your palm pressed to the speaker, as if heat could bring her back. You close your eyes. You rewind again, and this time, when she says your name, you almost don't recognize it. The message ends, but you're still listening, still waiting. As if, this time, she'll say the thing she swallowed, as if her voice might change, as if the silence might finally answer back. What if it does? What if it already has? The quiet doesn't bother you anymore. It waits like a loyal dog in the shadows, panting, watching. You've stopped fearing the silence, because it only ever echoes your own voice now, warped, hollowed, sharpened against the stone of memory. You remember the way she touched you, not like someone touching a lover, more like a surgeon prepping the skin before the incision. Her fingertips measured, her smile rehearsed. You thought that meant control. You thought being the willing subject of her exploration meant you held the power. But no. You were the one unzipping your own chest, handing her the scalpel with trembling reverence. She only followed the lines you drew. You had always needed someone to hurt you correctly. Even now, the sting isn't from the betrayal. It's from how perfectly she played her part. As if she were reading a script you scribbled in your sleep. And maybe you did. Maybe you whispered your own undoing into her mouth when she kissed you. Maybe she only became the blade because you begged her to. You used to blame her, her smile, her secrets, the way her lies tasted like strawberry rot. But the truth is simpler, uglier. You wanted her to win. You needed her to be cruel enough to finish the thing you could only fantasize about. There's a thrill in that. A shameful pleasure in knowing the wound was custom made. She stood over you, yes, but you were already on your knees. She held the knife, but you angled your throat. And now the blood dries slow, deliberate, like her goodbye. Not rushed, not messy, just patient. The way an artist signs the corner of a masterpiece. You revisit the moments obsessively. The way her fingers curled around the hilt like she'd done it before. The pause, not from hesitation, but reverence. The look in her eyes, not cruelty, not pity, just completion. She didn't destroy you. She delivered you. Into your own ending. You traced the scar with your mind, over and over again. A line of red ink across the story of you. And every time you think of it, your mouth waters. Not from grief, from hunger, because you realize now you chose this. You always did. She wasn't the first to hurt you, only the first to do it right. She knew where to press, because you told her. You showed her the soft places. You mapped them with moans and late night confessions, marked the weak spots with your trembling, your surrender. She didn't guess. She learned. And you were the teacher. How can you be angry when the student excels? The truth sticks like a fishbone in your throat. You were never the victim. You were the weapon, polished, waiting, begging for use. She may have picked you up, but you were already pointing at your own chest. This is the part that no one would understand. Not the therapists, not the friends you never called, not even her if you ever dared to say it. You loved her more when she ruined you, because that's when she finally saw you for what you are. A wound with legs, a craving dressed as a man, a blade wrapped in want. You can't hate her. Not when she did what you couldn't. Not when she set the fire and you handed her the match. You let her get close, too close. And now your skin misses her fingerprints. Even if they still burn, what does that make you? Not a fool, not a martyr, not even a lover. Just the knife. Longing for the hand that gripped you tight enough to feel like purpose. And when she left, she didn't take the pain. She took the part of you that made it make sense. Now you're left holding the silence again, but this time, it doesn't hum. It hisses. It scratches. It mocks. You try to sharpen yourself again, but there's no one left to hold you steady. No one left to press you in deep. No one left to finish the job. And in that absence, you twist. You turn on yourself, over and over and over, until even the mirror flinches. And that's the worst part, isn't it? Not that she left, but that she was right to. That she didn't ruin you, she revealed you. Laid bare the machinery, let the audience see the strings, and now you sit in the aftermath. Slick, stained, still smiling. Because maybe this is what you wanted all along. To be undone with precision. To be remembered as beautiful in your breaking. To be the sharp thing in someone else's hand. Just once. But now the room is too quiet. Your skin is too intact. And your thoughts, they itch like unopened letters. You want another chance, not to fix it, but to bleed better, to do it right this time, to say the right thing, to hurt the right way. So you wait, still, silent, ready. You made it through the silence. But the silence made its way through you. It didn't pass over like wind. It entered. Slow. Intentional. Like fog in a locked room. You didn't just survive it. You absorbed it. And now it speaks in your voice when no one's around to hear. You didn't flinch. Not because you're brave, but because part of you expected this. Didn't you? Somewhere deep inside, beneath the soft lies and broken clocks, this ending was waiting. waiting for you to stop pretending it wouldn't come. The silence didn't come to punish. It came to remind you of what still lives beneath your calm, the thoughts you hide behind the word fine, the bruises you renamed growth, the ghosts you now call closure. You weren't running from her. You were running from the version of yourself that watched her leave and didn't stop her. Not with a scream, not with a word, not even with a question. You let her go, the way you let yourself go, in pieces too small to notice. But now you notice everything. The sound her shoes made as she walked to the door, the pause before she turned the knob, the second the air changed when she was gone. You tell people you don't care anymore, but you remember that. You remember everything, because some part of you built a shrine around the pain, lit candles, whispered to it, tucked it in at night. You don't crave comfort anymore. Comfort is too quiet, too forgettable, too clean. What you crave now is meaning, structure, a story you can wrap your hands around, and if it costs you your sanity, so be it. At least madness has purpose. There's a kind of love that doesn't die. It just changes its shape. It turns into hunger, into study, into ritual. You don't speak her name aloud, but she speaks through you, in your stillness, in your silence, in the pauses between words you no longer say. You want to forget, but forgetting is too sterile, too simple. You don't want to erase her. You want to remember her better. You want sharper angles, cleaner cuts, the ache distilled until it stops being sadness and becomes something honest. Because all that's left now is truth. The truth that came after the apology she never gave, after the forgiveness you gave too early, after you folded your grief into something that looked like progress. You tell yourself you've moved on, but there's still a version of her living inside you, pacing, waiting, not for redemption, but for recognition. You gave her a room in your mind, no windows, no clocks, no exits. She lives there, and some nights she looks like you. You thought revenge would be louder, explosive, final, but it isn't. It whispers, it waits, it wraps around your ribs and hums lullabies in her voice. You can't burn what's already ash. You can't bury what still breathes. So you keep going, not forward, not backward, just deeper, down the spiral, into the places no one else dares go, into the stillness that pulses like a bruise beneath your skin. You carry her like a secret, like a seed, like something ruined and still blooming. And even now, especially now, you wonder, was she ever real, or just the part of you that wanted to be ruined beautifully? You ask the dark for answers, but the dark only echoes. Your voice just slower, quieter, more true. You're not looking for peace, you're looking for proof that it mattered, that you mattered, that someone else is still bleeding from the same place you were cut. So stay, breathe, lean in, subscribe to Revenge in Reverse. We don't promise peace. We don't offer healing, and we never lie. We offer something colder, something deeper, something true, but only after it's too late to run, because the wound never wanted to close. It just wanted to be seen. And tonight, you're looking, aren't you?